This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, episode 293, The Top Books for Animation Addicts. Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the number one place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, animation addicts. My name is Chelsea Robson.
And I'm Morgan Stradling.
Hello, Morgan. How are you doing?
As a wise old feline used to say, the birds are singing, the sky is bright, the sun is shining, I'm feeling all right.
Oh, it's a good one. I like it.
In case you don't know, that is from the children's literary classic, Pete the Cat and the Magic Sunglasses.
Ooh.
If you can't tell, I've been reading that to my children, so it's on the mind.
Now this is a sad day for me because it's like I would normally be completely aware of these things, except that I am not in the same phase of life as you are. So I'm glad that you're actually a step ahead and teaching me what needs to happen.
It's on the read along version is on Spotify. I'll send you the track. You can listen to it. It's about a 4-minute little listen. And
okay, I'll be ready.
You'll understand why that particular part stands out in my mind because it's a little repetitive. But yes, there we go.
Perfect. Well, today we have been talking a little bit about the different books and things of animation history. And so Morgan and we decided that we were going to actually put together a list for your literary convenience and to be able to decide which books are best for you.
Yes, this is really fun because we're creating the books that animation addicts should read. Okay. And if you want to be an animation addict and you love animation, you love history, you love the concepts. You want to be like us. You want to be exactly like us. These are the books that you need to read so you can be up to par with everyone else. So, I created this list and it's a really, really good one. I think,
if I do say so myself.
Summer's here, so you're going to have some downtime. This would be perfect to get on this and to catch up on all of these things. So, without further ado, let's talk about the books that every animation addict should read.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
So with these books, many of these are available on audible.com where you can listen to them anywhere you go, whether you're in the car, washing dishes, on a jog, on a walk, at Disneyland perhaps, wherever you may be and you want to, put a little earbud in and listen away, then audible.com has you. For example, some of the books that would be amazing to listen to would be Disney War, Walt Disney, The Triumph of American Animation, Starting Point, Queens of Animation, and of course, one of our favorites, Creativity Inc. So we will include a link in the show notes to all of these books, but if you want to listen to them and start your free Audible trial, go to rotoscopers.com/audible. That's where you can get 1 month free, 1 free credit. So any of these books, boom, instantly you can start listening to it right away. And it's an easy way to support the show, and we appreciate it so much. So with that, on to the show.
Okay, Maureen, I feel like the best place to start is from the beginning. And how do you decide the beginning, except for looking at the history of animation or in general? So tell me, what are the best animation history books?
Well, of course, animation's history has been about 100 years at this point in time. And so it would be really good to have a book that chronicles the very origins of animation. We're not talking Disney here. We're not talking DreamWorks. We're talking just the very beginning, the pioneers of animation. And that takes it as it develops through the 20s, 30s, 40s, and to all the different eras that we know till today. So I think the best resource for that is a book called Of Mice and Magic, A History of American Animated Cartoons. Of course, you got to get the revised and updated edition. This is by Leonard Maltin, and we talked about him in our last episode. He's a famed animation historian. He is wonderful. He is great. So this is a great book. This was actually required reading. This was my textbook when I took a history of animation class. And
Yes.
It's so funny. Whenever I click on this, it says last purchased in 2007. I'm like, oh, thanks a lot.
That takes
but
me
this
back.
this is a great one to turn back to because it covers, it covers the Fleischer era. It covers Disney. It covers Warner Brothers, Looney Tunes, all those classics that some of them are kind of forgotten and they're of a bygone era now. It's really important to, if you don't understand the history, then you can forget it, or you don't really understand the nuance that happens in today. So I think for that reason, this one's really important. It covers a wide variety of, obviously shorts, TV shows, cartoons. I think it is wonderful. It was first published in 1987, but obviously it's been updated since then. So very, very, very good book.
I'm a fan. Let's do that.
The next one is, this is a little, not necessarily controversial, but if you're going to study animation history, the big player in the game from almost the very beginning was Walt Disney, the man, the myth, the legend. So it would be worth your time to read a biography on Walt Disney to better understand him, his process, his creative genius, where he got where he was, the struggles that he had, because there were many. People seem to think, they're successful, they're on top, and you forget the lows that people have. And all of the failures and the almost bankruptcies that gave them life lessons that made them more resilient and stronger and able to come back. And we have so many classics from him. There's two. I've read the first one, which is called Walt Disney, an American Original.
I've read that one as well.
This is a great book. It's by the Walt Disney Company. And that's my only caveat here, is that because it's by, basically put together by the studio, the family, the organization, that it's could be tainted into not showing everything, all of the skeletons in the closet, if you will.
Right.
And so another option, which I haven't read, which it's on my list and I'm going to be reading it next. It's called Walt Disney, The Triumph of American Imagination. This is by Neil Gabler. It was published in 2006, and it actually won the Los Angeles Times Book Prize for biography. So has a lot of accolades. And for this, I like it because it's the third party, if you will. So that's what's intriguing me about this. So I'm interested to read this one and compare it to the Walt Disney American original. Honestly, I'd need to reread that one anyway. So I think I might read both of them and kind of compare. So whenever I get to that, I'll give you a little update on the podcast.
Sweet.
But both of those would be worth your time. And the last one that I think is a must read, absolutely one of the top parts of this list, is Disney War. This basically talks about the Eisner era. And Chelsea introduced this book to me. And this book has made such an impact on my life. I think about this book all the time and quote this book. We reference this book. If you are an animation addict, you need to read Disney War.
I mean, going back to our Audible plug, like this was one of the books that I picked for my Audible reads because I was like, there was no way I was going to be able to read this. It's like 30 or 40 hours. I don't remember exactly, but it is an investment. And if you're going to get a book from Audible, I would highly recommend getting the bigger books from Audible. If you're getting one from especially for, I don't know, it worked better for me. But I remember I listened to this on a road trip, and I actually had a friend with me who was, he's tertiary interest in animation, but he was so involved in this book as we were going through, and we were both just like, whoa. I love it. So it's definitely, if you're like not as much of an animation addict as we are, I would highly recommend this because it's something that it brings like all these things from, especially like me as a millennial, I look at my childhood completely differently from this lens. It's fun.
Wow. And Chelsea, of course, if they're listening to the Animation Addicts podcast, they're as big of animation addicts
as us. Of course. I mean, there may be that one person who downloaded this episode because they're like, huh?
Okay, to you, random person who said, huh, I want this. Check it out. Okay, so we're moving on to our next section, which is animation business. And really, there's only one book that I would fit in here. I don't want to leave you with a giant, massive list that really is impossible to get through. So really, our list has about 7 books in it with a few honorable mentions. Okay, so 10 and under, like top 10 books, right? This one, a must read, absolute must read. Everyone I know who's read this book has absolutely loved this book. Even people who aren't into animation, it's just generally a great business book. And I've been surprised the number of people who just on regular podcasts have mentioned this book. It's called Creativity Inc. Overcoming the Unseen Forces That Stand in the Way of True Inspiration by Pixar co-founder Ed Catmull. Amazing book. What do you love about this?
I felt like my family has always been very pro reading like self-help books and business type books like this. And so when I read it, I have a background of a lot of them. And honestly, it was one of the best ones that I've ever read. And like there were a lot of things in it that like it's a little bit autobiographical in the fact that he's telling his story and the lessons that he's learned. But you're also looking at the fact is like he was one of the co-founders of one of the biggest animation studios and businesses and dealing with millions upon millions of dollars yearly. And so it's like if you're looking at somebody who has that mentality of like big business, it's just like, whoa, it just opens up your mind to a whole nother level of expectations of an understanding in all levels of a business. And also it helps me. There was one point where he talks a lot about John Lasseter as he had been, he was going in and trying to hound the people at Disney being like, hey, because after they watched Tron, he was just like, what? And so he was really like wanting people to dig into this, and everyone's like, no. And they actually let him go because of this. And then he went on to get in with Ed Catmull and then also these other things. And so it's just kind of like when you're ready unless you're ready to move forward and to make these big jumps, they're going to pass you by. And in that case, it was the passing by of that era of Disney with Don Lasseter at Catmull, and they ended up being able to take that that form of and medium to a whole nother level, which ended up, affecting everybody in the world who watches movies. So it's great. Very great.
So the number one animation business book, Creativity Inc. All right. So the last section that we have, other than our honorable mentions, are animation technique books. Now, one thing that this list is, this is for animation addicts. And to be an animation addict, you don't necessarily have to be an animator or an animation professional or animation student. Although I do think it is very important to understand the basic techniques and how the process is made, or how the sausage is made, how they make the process, right? Just so that way you can better understand what you're watching and better critique it and understand the marvels that some of these technical achievements are, right? And the first one is a book called The Illusion of Life.
This one is honestly one of the ones that has been quoted the most, I think, on our podcast, because it really is a foundational part if you're looking at understanding 2D animation and, in extension, computer animation. These masters of creating life out of nothing, out of a pencil, is it's just foundational and amazing.
Yes, these are by some of the 9 old men, Ollie Johnston and Frank Thomas. If you remember back to the early days of our podcast, if you're an OG listener, we used to have an animation technique or an animation principle lesson given by Mason. And he would go over one of these, principles of animation from this book. And I think this is a really extraordinary book. It's one that people continually go to and reference. Must have. It's not really in print anymore, but you can still get it for a reasonable amount. You can buy it new for about $44 currently. I mean, obviously the prices fluctuate, but then, you can buy it used anywhere from, depending on the day, $25 to $40. And obviously condition, matters. If you want someone's beat up old copy, you will be able to find it, but it would be worth it just to own it. And especially if you are an animation student or you are going into animation, this is something that you need to buy.
Awesome.
The next one is called The Animator Survival Kit. This is by legendary animator Richard Williams, which we've talked about him recently, The Thief and the Cobbler and his magnum opus that never was. Also the director, animation director of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And this book actually came out in 2012, which is kind of a newer book for some of these animation books. A lot of these came out in the 80s. Or have been around for decades, right? And they're just tried and true classics. But this one, he finally was able to put everything he knew together. And so this was, technically it's called an Animator Survival Kit, a manual of methods, principles, and formulas for classical computer, games, stop motion, and internet animators.
The cover on this one is pretty classy too.
Yes.
I mean, it is really cool. You look at, he goes through in all these different shapes. It goes all the way, it kind of looks like that picture of the caveman going into the human or whatever. And now these are just the evolution of animals and the height of them all and stick figures. And then now CGI and then really pushed out boobs.
Obviously, these are all original characters, but we know exactly who he is referencing here. Jessica Rabbit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's these duck-looking characters that's supposed to be kind of like Daffy Duck. It's very obvious who, there's this cat, obviously Felix the cat. It's so funny. So, yeah, if you want to understand even more principles, and I love that the subtitle for this really references all types of animation, which goes to show if you're a true animator, these principles apply to all animation. They're not just for one type, which is 2D hand-drawn. And so I really like this. I think this is one that is another must-have. According to Amazon, it has a #1 bestseller.
Ooh.
Little flag for movie reference. But also, this is a book that you can get for relatively cheap used. About, you can get it for $10 with, including your shipping.
Amazing.
So, if you're wanting to create a collection, just buy the used ones and just wear those out and read them. You don't have to spend a fortune for these books, which is nice. So yeah, that one's good. The last one for animation technique is Character Animation Crash Course by Eric Goldberg, legendary Disney animator from the Renaissance, most known for doing The Genie. He was also the director of one of the co-directors of Pocahontas. This is just for character animation, just obviously it's called a crash course. But again, it goes a little bit more into those techniques and specifically for your characters and what you need to know and understand. I love the byline on this is a veritable genie's lamp stuffed with everything the aspiring animator could wish for. Like,
That's
okay,
classy.
we got to get that genie in there, but I love when these classic animators who have really developed and mastered their craft, they write these books and they share everything that they know, in book form. A lot of people, have courses now and memberships, which is great, but I feel like those aren't as attainable sometimes unless you know what to look for. You might not even know those exist, but books can live on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once they're published, they're kind of there, and then they can be sold on the secondary market. So this is a great one. Definitely check it out.
With a foreword by Brad Bird.
Brad Bird. Love the guy. It's a good one. So then last, I have a few honorable mentions. Now, some of these I haven't necessarily read, but as I was getting ready and studying this, I thought, that sounds like an amazing book. I should need to add it to my list. But because I hadn't necessarily read them, I didn't necessarily want to put them up as the main ones. Now, one that I have read is the series They Drew as They Pleased. This is interesting. This is a 6-part series that basically goes through the different eras of Disney animation. And it's not necessarily a history book. It really focuses on the different artists from those eras and highlights and features their artwork. So there might be certain background artists that will be featured, maybe in the Golden Age or the Silver Age. And it's good. It's interesting. So if you're wanting to look at styles and understand more about, some of these other masters of animation beyond the 9 Old Men, although the 9 Old Men are included in this is a really good one. I feel like it's a bit of propaganda in that, we've talked about this, the way they spin the Bronze Age or the Disney, Dark Ages is funny. But, if you can get over that and just say, okay, we're looking at Fox and the Hound here. We're not looking at necessarily masterpieces, although there really are wonderful animation pieces. I specifically, the bear that was one of Glenn Keane's first animated things. It was their first piece and all the other animators were like, oh my gosh, this is the new guy, so, those are interesting and fun.
Spent his summer at the zoo.
Yeah, there's 6 of them and they're not in print. So they're pretty expensive. They're about $40 each. So that's why it's kind of an honorable mention. Maybe check it out at the library if you can. Another one which is very interesting is called The Queens of Animation, the untold story of the women who transformed the world of Disney and made cinematic history forever. This is by Nathalia Holt. And this talks about, the ink and paint ladies and really focuses on them and their craft and what they were able to do and contribute to animation. And I think that's really important. Animation can be seen as a boys' club. And so I really do like that, this provides some history into women who were pioneers and really made an impact. Just because you don't know someone's name doesn't mean they weren't important or that they didn't transform something. And so this gives them a little bit of spotlight. Next one is called Timing for Animation by Harold Whitaker and John Hollis. And this, again, is an animation technique book. And I thought it was interesting because it talked more about the principle of timing and versus character animation and some of those things. And I thought it was an interesting subset of animation techniques. And that one just kept coming up again and again and again. Because if you can't get your timing right, then everything just feels off and it's strange and it's odd. So that was a good one. And then the last one is called Starting Point, 1979 through 1996. This is by Hayao Miyazaki. And it's kind of a semi-memoir of his, where he's going through and kind of talking about different things that were inspiring to him and his childhood and different eras in him as a director. And so that one is interesting because I think the influence of Japanese animation as a whole is important to talk about and notice. We're not just going to focus, well, traditionally we focus on Western animation here on the podcast. The Hayao Miyazaki cannot be overlooked. And I think it's important and a great read to see where he's coming from and what you can learn from that. So there are my books, the top books that every animation addict should have. So if you were to pick one book on this list, Chelsea, what would it be?
As far as my next book?
No, if you were to recommend to anyone on the podcast, I want to read a book about animation, what would you have them read?
I mean,
from this list.
From this list, the biggest one that I would say that's the most adaptable to your situation is probably going to be the Creativity Inc. But also as far as the art goes, I would say Illusion of Life is probably the better one because it has so many aspects of animation that just are compiled into one book. As far as the actual techniques of it all. Those would be the two that I would.
Interesting, because if I were to pick one book that you need to read this, it would be hands down Disney War. You got to read it. It is so good. It will change your life, and I don't say that hyperbolically.
Why did it change your life?
It opened my mind. It opened my eyes to the history and the other side of Disney animation and the studio that I just wasn't aware of. And I liked seeing the politics and the infighting and just the drama. And that's just business. It sucks, but that's how it is. And it really will open your eyes to that. So definitely use your free Audible credit. This is a good one because it is a behemoth of a book. And I want people to go read Disney War and then come back and give us your little mini review. So go to rotoscopers.com/audible to get Disney War or any of these books. Not all of them are on there, but many of them are. So definitely go check them out. And we appreciate your support for the podcast. All right.
Also, just as a secondary honorable mention, if you are looking for art books, the Rotoscopers, we have done several, really, I would say quality art book reviews on the YouTube channel. So you should check those out if you're just looking at, oh, that's nice.
Yes. We'll include a link to our playlist that has all the art books that we have reviewed. Number one art book that must be purchased for an animation addict, and I guess I would add that to the list, would be the Art of Rapunzel.
Yeah.
The Art of Rapunzel is a must-own, must-check out. It is so good. Fascinating. It's such a good, just the art. Again, we are unabashed Glen Keane fans here. So it's a good one. All right, that's all that we have for this episode of the Animation Addicts Podcast. Thank you so much for joining, for supporting the show any way that you can. The easiest way you can do is give us a 5-star review, share this show with your friends, so that way they can know the amazing things that the Animation Addicts have in store for them. And hey, if you have a friend who wants to be an animator or is looking to be an animator or just loves Disney animation, all of the above, send them this episode so they can enjoy it. And with that, until next time, we are the Rotoscopers.
High quality stuff there.
Wow, you could get some of these for as low as $2. So
whoa.
Yeah. The used.
Well, yeah, but still.
Yeah. It's great.
For somebody who's like, I just want the book.
I just want to buy them. Yeah, absolutely.
Rotoscoperos.
No.
Does that? There are certain quotes of Masons that just like live rent free in my mind, and that's one of them.
What?
He called us the Rotoscoperos one time. Oh. There's that one, and then another random like moment from the book Disney War that lives rent free in my mind is them talking about basically the story about how the Disney afternoon got started. And basically they're all just like standing out in a parking lot being like, so gummy bears, okay? All right. It's like what?
The birds are singing. I messed it up. Okay, sorry. Take it.
Spin. Spin that narrative. Spin, spin, spin. So I'm going to take a little trip next month.
Yeah.
To Alemania, Germany.
Ooh, that's awesome.
I have a friend who is living in Munich. She's Paula, who had your baby. She has been wanting me to go visit her for a while. And
How long have you been 17?
A while. Oh, that's a great quote.